So there's one bait across the entire bass fishing industry that stands out as being the most widely used across the entire globe. It is used by beginners, experts, winter, summer, spring, doesn't matter, ponds, lakes, rivers, and you guys probably already know what it is. It's a Senko. It catches giant fish everywhere, it catches numbers of fish, and it doesn't take a lot of skill to use it, but there are things you can do that can help you catch more fish with it. And everybody reaches right away for the Yamamoto, and there's nothing wrong with that. The Yamamoto is a great Senko, but is it the best one? And that's what I want to talk about today. I'm going to have 5 different brands of Senkos that I think encompass all, the majority of stick baits that we're going to talk about that are out there in the industry. And I'm going to test them in a tank. I have a tank. I'm going to show you a couple cool things about them. I'm going to show you a couple negative things about them. So that way you guys, when you go to the supermarket, you go to Bass Pro Shops, you go to Walmart, it doesn't matter, wherever your tackle store is, and you're looking to buy some Senkos or some stick baits, you know what to get for the situation that you're getting into. So that's what we're going to break down today right now. So right off the bat, where does a Senko shine? A Senko shines if you really don't know what to throw. First off, it shines when you're fishing along the bank, when fish are shallow. It shines in the springtime when fish are shallow. It also shines around pressured fish, around cover, around suspended fish. Pretty much it shines in almost any given situation other than covering water. Covering water is not what a Senko is made for. It is made for catching fish that are in specific areas for the most part. It does a great job around grass, and it's because of the fall rate that it does such a good job. And that is one of the main things that I want to talk about, because I have 5 different brands of Senkos here. I have a Yamamoto, I have a Zoom's Linky, I have a ZMan's Linker, I have a Berkley General, and I also have a Strike King Shimmy stick. And those are the 5 that I'm going to talk about. But they all have very different fall rates. And that's something that people do not think about when they're getting a Senko. And it changes what I do. It changes how I fish, and it changes where I fish it, because I do not fish these Senkos in the same situations, because literally one of these can change if you go behind somebody and catch fish or not. It can change if you get a bite or not, depending on the time of year and depending on the situation, which is why I want to talk about each individual type of Senko and show you guys some cool things about them as far as the sink rate goes that changes how you can fish it and where you can fish it. So the first one I want to talk about, because it is probably everybody's go-to, is going to be a Yamamoto, the original Senko, right? I think I have it just in 301 here, which is like the only color you can ever have according to my buddy. But right off the bat, a Yamamoto Senko is a heavy Senko. It is probably one of the heaviest. It has a heavy salt content and a heavy abrasion content. And so what does that mean? That means this one has the fastest fall rate out of pretty much any of these. So it's a heavier Senko, and what I like about that is if I'm covering water, in a way, I pick up the Yamamoto because it sinks the fastest. So if I'm just trying to get a bite and trying to see if there's fish there, that's what I'm going to reach for. And what it also shines is if I'm fishing for suspended fish, because if I'm fishing over boat docks, over deeper water, if I'm fishing for a school of fish that are out there deeper, if you're on Lake Hartwell or something like that, a clear spotted bass reservoir where I'm throwing a Senko out and watching it fall, and I want that presentation over deeper water, that Yamamoto is a great option. If I'm making really long casts, great option. What I don't like about it is I don't like to Texas rig this one, and I don't like fishing it shallow. For the reason is, because it has such a high abrasion sand content in it, it falls apart really, really fast. And anybody that's thrown a Yamamoto Senko knows exactly what I'm talking about. You really don't get a lot of fish out of each Senko. You get maybe 2, if you're lucky, before they tear it apart. But sometimes it requires you to throw it if you're over deeper water. So I don't like to Texas rig it, and I don't like it to fish shallow, because a lot of times if those fish are shallow when they're on beds, this goes by their face too fast. Especially if you're around pressured situations. That's the one place that I do not like to throw this, is shallow. So that is about the Yamamoto. Other than that, it's a phenomenal Senko. I'm not going to talk badly about it because it's the original Senko. It does a great job. Gary Yamamoto knew what he was doing with that. But the next one that I want to talk about is the ZMan's Linker. And this one's kind of an under the radar Senko, or stick bait, I guess you should say. And this one, the plastic is not as supple right out of the box. It has a high salt content, as most people know, and it sinks pretty fast right off the bat. But one cool thing about this one is the more you use it, the more the salt gets taken out of it, because the Z-Man baits are pretty much indestructible, and there's no difference here with this Linker. Zlinkers. And so the more you throw it, the more the salt gets out of the bait and the less it sinks. So after a handful of fish, this bait really doesn't sink very fast at all, and it goes from having a Yamamoto-like sink rate, that heavier sink rate, to having a very, 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 very slow sink rate, and the plastic becomes super, super, super soft. So I love to Texas rig this one because it is indestructible, and you can catch pretty much as many fish as you want on it, and that plastic is super, 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 super soft. And so when you're Texas rigging them, you know indestructibility is a high value target for this because you're throwing it around some goofy stuff a lot of times. You're fishing it through grass, you're making long casts with it. But that is what I really, really like about this bait. I will throw it shallow after a couple of fish because once that salt starts to get out of there, it really has like the slowest sink rate of a Senko that ever was invented. It literally like will sink super, super slow. And that's really cool if you're fishing around fish that are on beds, if you're fishing around fry garters, anything like that, because you literally just hold it in their face. And so it's a pretty cool bait, indestructible like I said. Not my go-to for deeper water and not my go-to for super shallow water, but it is one that I keep in my boat at all times because I can literally use like 2 all day and catch a ton of fish on it. So if you're looking to use, you know, a couple Senkos or take just a couple in your pocket, that ZMan's Linkers is awesome because I can take 1 or 2 to a pond and fish with them all day, which is a cool option. So the next one I want to talk about is the Zoom Zlinky. Brian New won a Bassmaster Elite series on this bait a couple years ago, his first ever. And this one is kind of the middle of the road between the two. You can see this plastic is a lot softer. It has a lower abrasion salt or sand content in it. And it has like a middle of the road sink rate too. It's kind of that in the middle. It has a decent sink rate. Doesn't sink super fast. It's a lot more durable than a Yamamoto. It holds up a lot better. And that plastic is super, super supple as you can see here. So I like to Texas rig this bait. I like to fish this one shallower. I don't mind fishing it around shallow docks because it has a little bit slower sink rate and it has a little bit more of a supple fall. So that one's a really, really cool option as far as that goes as well. Not much more to say on that one. It has a middle of the road sink rate like I've said. And the next one that I'm going to talk about is one that probably everybody wants to hear about. Mice also like this one because of the scent that it has going on. That is going to be the Berkley General. As you can see, this one is a little bit stiffer plastic, which gives it a little bit different action in the water. The sink rate is closer to a Yamamoto. It has a little bit faster sink rate, and so that's something that you have to take into consideration. But what it also has is scent. So if you're fishing around pressured fish, that can also give you an edge because you're going to be giving them one more sensory to pick up on. They can get up on it, they can actually use that scent, and it might give them a reason to eat it because we're fishing a Senko around pressured fish a lot of times, and we're fishing it when they're in a position where we really can't power fish for them. You know, we're like, what can we possibly throw? I know, I'll try a Senko. That's when we pick up this baby. So having that scent in there is a great option because it just, like I said, it gives them another option to pick up on that bait. And so they've probably already seen a million baits, and so that gives them a different look. But like I said, a little bit stiffer plastic, great for Texas rigging too, because it's a little bit more durable than that Yamamoto for sure. And it comes in some goofier colors. It doesn't come in your traditional green pumpkin. They give it a little bit different look as far as that goes, which is kind of neat. So the last one that I want to talk about is one that has really surprised me, and that is going to be that Strike King Shimmy Stick. So this one has pretty supple plastic, as you can see by looking at it. But what I want to talk about with this bait is it has a very Yumdinger-like fall. I know a lot of people are like, why didn't you put a Yumdinger in this video? Everybody's probably pissed at me about that because I don't like Yumdingers. And here's the reason why. Yumdingers have a weird fall. They never sink straight down. They always sink one side to another, and their action is a little goofy. You can get a ton of them for cheap. But the Strike King Shimmy Stick has a very, very, very comparative fall rate in that slow fall, but it always falls straight. I think it has a better shimmy, and it holds up incredibly well for one of the cheapest stick baits out there on the market. When it's post-spawn, when I'm throwing a Texas Rig Senko, when I am fishing, you know, and catching a ton of fish, I love to pick up this Strike King Shimmy Stick. It honestly is super, super durable. Probably one of the most durable out there on the market. And like I said, it has that incredible slow fall. So when I'm skipping super shallow docks for largemouth in the summertime, when I am throwing a wacky rig up into places along the bank that's like 2 foot or less that I really want some soak time, this is the bait that I reach for every single time. And it's one that I've kind of kept under my hat because nobody throws it. And as always, guys, I'll have all this stuff linked down below, all these different brands, so that way you guys can pick up on them. But yeah, that Strike King Shimmy Stick is just a phenomenal bait for shallow fish, and it's one that is completely underutilized. So now that we've talked about my 5 types of Senkos and gone over the benefits and the negatives to them, let's talk about the gear that I'm going to throw this on. Most of you guys probably already know braid to a leader. I like that P-Line Spin-X braid. It has a high vis so you can really see it on the water, because that's a big thing when it comes to fishing weightless baits like this, because you can really see when that line jumps when those fish eat it, or when it just turns, and you know, when a fish eats it, you can tell. And then I throw generally like a 10 to 15 pound P-Line tactical fluorocarbon leader, depending on if I'm fishing around cover, if I'm fishing open water, pressured fish, unpressured fish, big fish, small fish, etc. You might want to change up your leader. I typically make the leader around 2 rod lengths, whatever I'm throwing. I like a 7-1 medium fast action. It's a Arc Essence. It's my favorite spinning rod. I use it for pretty much all different tactics that I use it for. And then I pair that with a 3000 size reel because I like to pick up line really fast. But if I am fishing around super heavy cover, then I'll go with a little bit shorter leader, and that's when I go to that 15 pound leader. And then just like you see in the videos, I've been using that I like 2 different hooks. If I'm fishing open water, a lot of times I'll go like finesse type Senko fish or stick bait fishing. I will go with a nose type hook, a drop shot hook, which is that, if you guys haven't seen that one, that's that TK150 by Trocar. It's a drop shot hook. I use that in a 1/0. It's a great finesse hook for it, similar to what John Cox uses, but I like the Trocar one because it has that point, that blade point on there. It really penetrates well. And then if I'm fishing around cover, I like that that Trocar weedless Nico hook. Does a great job because there's a bigger barb on there and a longer hook. It really pins those fish, and I can hold them for a long period of time without having to worry about them coming off, especially when they wrap around cover. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when you're fishing tight to cover. So probably one of my other favorite baits for fishing shallow is a Zoom Fluke. And right here I'm going to have a video linked where I break down all of my fluke fishing tips and tricks, where I break into some cool things fishing a fluke that you guys probably didn't know. I also did a TikTok on it that most people don't know, and I also have a link down below where you can get on a Bass U subscription for cheap, so that way you can check out some of the awesome videos that the Bass University has, because they have all the pros just like myself that break down their favorite techniques like Senko fishing, like fluke fishing, where you can really learn for a really inexpensive price. But thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.